Hey everyone, in my last video I talked about a Buick that I used to drive, and I also made some videos about some car accidents I've had in the past and how far I've come from that. So I thought I'd make a video with a diagram to demonstrate how far I've come to scale in terms of how far I've driven without an accident, and talk about my accident history. I hope YouTube is not going to frown upon the background music that I have for this video, but I think it's appropriate for the scale that I'm using. Anyways, I got my driver's license when I was 19 years old, and I was driving a Mazda Tribute. At the time, the car was about 8 years old. Actually, my dad had an even older car than that. He got rid of it to take advantage of the Cash for Clunkers program, so he gave me the Mazda to use when I was going to school at RIT. And within a couple years, I had 2 accidents. I thought I'd talk about that. My first accident was I was driving in the middle of winter when I got a little bit arrogant about how I could negotiate the winter weather, and my car skid out of control, and it spun out, and the side of my door hit a stop sign and knocked the stop sign completely out of its post. And the door to the driver's side completely jammed up, and after that you had to get in from the passenger side door. So that was right there. This is the Earth to Moon scale. So I got this picture. I believe either Cassini or Juno took this picture of Earth to Moon to scale, with the size of the Earth and the Moon to scale. Most people can't appreciate how far the Moon is to scale. I mean, if you think about it, we might fly from A to B on Earth, but it would maybe take you a day or so to fly from here to here on Earth. But to go from Earth to the Moon, you would need a machine that goes about 10 times faster than your 747, and it would take 3 days. So that's one way to visualize it. Okay. My second accident, which is roughly right here, was also in the Mazda. I had been driving back to my school in Rochester, back from my family's home in Pittsburgh, and I had exited out of Erie to do a little sightseeing when I got distracted by some thoughts. My mind was racing elsewhere, and before I knew it, I rear-ended somebody's car, and I was a little surprised about how much damage that I had done. Oops, music went out for some reason. And my car wasn't damaged that badly, but the insurance ended up having to pay the other guy's car to the tune of $2,000 or $3,000, if I remember correctly, which really made me appreciate that I need to be much more careful. And so I was careful for some time, and then I made a really dumb decision. I lent the car to a friend of mine to run an errand, and she had gone out, and after what was supposed to be a 15-minute errand, and I waited for her for an hour and I didn't hear back. I knew something wasn't quite right, and I thought I should call her, but before I could do that, my phone rang, and when I looked, it was her number, and I didn't even have to ask her what happened. I just went, "Are you alright?" And she was, but the car was totaled, and that's why that green line ends right there. So each star is an accident, and these are the 4 cars that I've driven. I love charts, so bear with me. And then I got a Buick, and I only had 1 accident in that Buick, but totaled it. It was a very old car, that's why. The Buick I got was 15 years old, if I remember correctly. And I had gone to see my girlfriend. At this point, I was living in Pittsburgh. I was working there, and I'd gone to visit my girlfriend in Rochester, New York. And it was in the middle of winter again, and I ran off the road and ran into a telephone pole. And it's in the middle of winter, and I ended up having to to go to a nearby hotel to stay the night until the next day when my dad could pick me up, and he was really upset. He didn't want me to go to Rochester in the first place, but you know what? I was really depressed, and the only thing that could cheer me up was the girl, and I went there, and, you know, had I not gone there, who knows what else could have happened. It's only a totaled car, so whatever the case is, I didn't get another car until I moved to Seattle. I spent some time in between the Buick and the Honda. I lived in New York, and I didn't really need a car in New York, so, and then I moved to Seattle, and I got a Honda, and I had a whole slew of accidents. I changed jobs a few times, and I was in a very turbulent situation. I had some relationship turbulence as well. And my first accident was when I it was a very minor accident, actually. The first one was I had gone to the parking garage where I had worked and sideswiped the wall of the garage and made a huge scratch just along the face of the car. It wasn't mechanically damaged or anything, but after that it became really embarrassing. You gotta understand, you know, I live in a suburb of Seattle where cars are a very integral part of your life, and every time I had to carpool with somebody, or every time, you know, I went on a date, you know, I had a funny story to tell. It was just that. I mean, it wasn't mechanically damaged or anything. My second accident, which is right here, was when I was going to a library to print some materials. I don't have a printer at home, and I got really excited about reading this material, and I was driving and couldn't stop thinking about it. This is my problem. I like to think when I'm driving, and I made a wrong turn, and as I made a U-turn back, for some reason I didn't see a car coming behind me when I was making that U-turn. I learned a lesson from that. I've since learned that if I make a wrong turn, to just let it go, explore a little bit, instead of trying to correct it mid-turn. I have a tendency to do that. One of my downfalls is that sometimes when I go, let's say after work, I start heading home and I get indecisive. Should I go to the grocery store and pick something up, or should I head straight home, or sometimes should I visit something before I get home? And I get to an intersection where I kind of have to decide, and I just make a mess out of it, changing lanes and last minute changes and the turn signal going wild. It drives everybody crazy. I've since learned to make peace with wherever I go and not do that. Sometimes when I make peace with where I want to go, I discover something new anyway, so it turns out okay. So my very last accident, hopefully the last accident before I get to the moon, or rather for the rest of my life, even better yet, it was when I was driving on a very regular commute, actually. There's nothing tricky about that drive. When my mind started to wander, I started to worry what's going to happen to my stuff after I die. Especially, I love to write computer games, and I don't know who's going to take over that. I also have a lot of just kind of secrets. You know, if I were to die today and somebody came to my car and, you know, and cleaned it out, or my, you know, my workplace, and I live in my car right now, if they came to my workplace to clean out the stuff, and, you know, I just have a lot of stuff that I don't want people to just pry their eyes on, and I started to worry about that. And then I remembered that there was this girl that I had recently broken up with, and the reason I broke up with her was because she wanted children. And I remember thinking, if I had children, at least they could continue writing the computer games that I leave behind. And so I was daydreaming when all of a sudden traffic slowed down, and kaboom, and there we go. And I got a traffic ticket over that, and I ended up going to traffic court to negotiate, and I got it reduced to something that wouldn't go on my record, at least. And I also, because I was in between jobs at the time, the judge allowed me to work it off with community service, and which is great, because when I went to community service, I made some new connections, and it has been very helpful in my life, to make a long story short. And but this is my entire driving career. This is how far I've gone to scale, and I'm especially pleased about how far I've gone without an accident. And One thing I find helpful is just to make peace. I mean, one of my big downfalls, like I said, was the making the wrong turns. Or, nowadays I give myself plenty of time, at least an extra half hour before I have to go to work or go somewhere, and I just make peace with whatever the trip does. If there's a traffic issue, if there's wrong turns, or if something comes up that catches my eye and I want to go see it, I kind of make peace with that. And another big problem of mine is my curiosity sometimes gets the better of me. Sometimes when people I sometimes get into minor road rages because somebody does something weird and curiosity just gets the better of me. What did I do recently? I'm trying to remember. Recently somebody I can't even remember now. That's how stupid it is. But somebody does something weird on the road, and I'm just dying to know what's going on. And sometimes I open the window to ask, what's up? And it's probably not the safest thing to do. And like I said in a previous video, I recently I have a lot of trouble in public areas because weird things will catch my eye that make it hard to focus on anything. So I was doing laundry a couple days ago when I just couldn't find peace. When people moved around me, when people slammed the laundry machine door, it just piqued my curiosity so much that it kind of made doing laundry difficult, to say the least. And sometimes driving can do that to me. If I see somebody on the road driving, 30 miles an hour in a 60 for no apparent reason, curiosity will get the better of me. Or not long ago I saw somebody on a bike on the freeway where they weren't supposed to do that, and curiosity just got the better of me, and I kind of drove alongside them to find out what was going on, and it was just weird, and I need to stop doing that. I mean, that's my big downfall now. The daydreaming, yeah, I sometimes do that as well. What else can... one thing I've learned is... I know not to text and drive, but I also take it a step further and turn off the phone altogether before I start the engine, because I know if I'm driving and all of a sudden I get text messages, I'll start to worry. Did I just get fired from my job? Did my girlfriend just break up with me? And it puts me in a dilemma. Do I check that text or do I drive with a impaired frame of mind? So that sometimes gets to me. Anyways, that's how far I've gone.